Hi, boys and girls, it's Mrs. Littner. I have the second half of Mercy Watson to read, so I'm going to go ahead and finish it for you guys. We left off at chapter 9. Inside the Lincoln sisters' house, baby Lincoln woke up. She went into her sister Eugenia's room. "Sister, wake up," baby said. "There is somebody outside shouting, yippee-yi-yo." "Did you have a pie before bed again?" asked Eugenia. "I did not," said baby. "I think you did," said Eugenia. "I did not," said baby. "Go back to your room immediately," said Eugenia. "Yes, sister," said baby. Baby went back to her room. She got into her bed. She heard another yippee-yi-yo. "Oh dear," said baby. "I wish I had not eaten that pie." Chapter 10. "Yippee-yi-yo," baby shouted Eugenia. "Come back here immediately." Baby got out of bed. She went into Eugenia's room. "Yes, sister," said baby. "Did you hear that noise?" said Eugenia. "Was it a yippee-yi-yo, sister?" "It was," said Eugenia. "You are dreaming," said baby. "Nonsense," said Eugenia. "Open the curtain." Baby opened the curtain. Together, the Lincoln sisters watched Mercy gallop across the lawn. They watched the little man on her back take his cowboy hat off and wave it over his head. "Yippee-yi-yo," the little man shouted. "There he is, on Mercy, Leroy Ninker." "That pig is disturbing the peace," said Eugenia, "and so is the cowboy riding her. I'm calling the police." "Oh, sister," said baby, "are you sure it's not a dream?" "It's a nightmare," said Eugenia. "That is what it is." Chapter 11. Next door, Mrs. Watson discovered that Mercy was not in her bed. "Mr. Watson," she shouted, "come at once." Mr. Watson came at once. "Mercy is not here," said Mrs. Watson. "Are you certain?" asked Mr. Watson. "Have you looked under the bed?" Mrs. Watson bent over. She looked under the bed. "She is not there," said Mrs. Watson. Mr. and Mrs. Watson stood together in Mercy's room. "What should we do?" asked Mrs. Watson. "Yippee-yi-ho! It's that noise again," said Mrs. Watson. Mr. Watson went to the window. That's what he saw. He opened the curtain. He looked outside. "Mrs. Watson," said Mr. Watson, "we must call the fire department immediately. It's an emergency." "What's the number you call for the fire department?" Chapter 12. In reality, Leroy Ninker was a small thief on the back of a big pig. But in Leroy's mind, he was a cowboy riding a bucking bronco in the Wild West. So that's a thinking bubble. That's what he was picturing. "Being a cowboy is hard work," said Leroy Ninker. "I need some refreshment." Leroy reached into his shirt pocket. He grabbed hold of a butter barrel candy. He unwrapped it with one hand, and he put it into his mouth. "Ah," said Leroy Ninker, "this is the life." But just then, the pig kicked up her heels. The pig bucked. The pig reared. Leroy Ninker lost his grip. "Yippee," said Leroy. He flung through the air. "I," said Leroy. He landed on his back. "Oh," said Leroy Ninker. Chapter 13. Mercy sniffed. There was that delightful smell again. Butter. Where was it coming from? She looked around. She saw the little man lying on the ground. She sniffed his face. "Hee hee," the little man said. "That tickles." Mercy snuffled the man's shirt. "Hee hee," he said again. In order to snuffle the man better, Mercy sat on top of him. "Hee hee, get off of me," said the man. Mercy put her snout in the man's shirt pocket. She snuffled some more. "Oh, hee hee," said the little man. "Help." Mercy found a piece of candy. She bit into it. It was sweet. It was lovely. It was very, very buttery. Mercy sat on top of the little man and chewed. A siren wailed. "Aw, shucks," said the little man. Chapter 14. The fire department arrived first. "We have been to this house before," said the fireman named Ned. "You are right," said the fireman named Lorenzo. "This is the house with the pig." And the toast, said Ned. We ate toast at this house. I see the pig, said Lorenzo. He pointed at Mercy. The pig is sitting on somebody. Good grief, said Ned. Ned and Lorenzo got out of the fire truck. They saw Mr. and Mrs. Watson running out the front door of their house. They saw Eugenia Lincoln and baby Lincoln running out the front door of their house. This is an interesting job, isn't it, said Ned. Very interesting, said Lorenzo. Chapter 15. Officer Tommy Lello pulled into the driveway of 54 Decawoo Drive. In the yard, he saw 2 firemen, 3 women in nightgowns, and 1 man in pajamas. They were all gathered around a pig. Is that the same pig I caught driving a convertible? He asked himself. It is, he answered himself. It is exactly the same pig, Officer Tommy Lello squinted. Is that pig sitting on top of somebody? Officer Tommy Lello asked himself. That certainly looks to be the case, he answered himself. Officer, officer, shouted Baby, come quickly, Mercy has caught a thief. Mr. Watson, Mrs. Watson, and Eugenia Lincoln, and Baby Lincoln, and Ned and Lorenzo, and Officer Tommy Lello all looked down at Mercy. Are you a thief? Officer Tommy Lello asked the man underneath the pig. I am, said Leroy Ninker. I am a thief. Were you robbing those people? Officer Tommy Lello asked. I was, said Leroy Ninker, until the pig got involved. Gentlemen, said Officer Tommy Lello, will you assist me in removing the pig? On the count of 3, Ned and Lorenzo and Officer Tommy Lello lifted Mercy off Leroy Ninker. You are under arrest, said Officer Tommy Lello. It's that pig you should be arresting, said Eugenia Lincoln. Leroy Ninker stood with his cowboy boots, with his cowboy hat in his hand. He looked down at his feet. How does he feel? Oh, officer, said Mrs. Watson, the thief is so tiny. Shouldn't he have something to eat before you arrest him? What do you think Mrs. Watson is thinking he should eat? Maybe he needs some toast, said Ned, with a great deal of butter on it, added Lorenzo. Toast? Said Officer Tommy Lello. Who needs toast? Why, everyone needs toast, said Mrs. Watson. Even cowboys, said Leroy Ninker. Mercy pricked up her ears. Toast, butter at last. She headed for the Watsons' kitchen, and everyone followed her. Chapter 16. The next morning, the front page of the newspaper read, Pet pig captures thief, sits on him until help arrives. She is a porcine wonder, said the pig's owner, Mrs. Watson. She is a very, very brave dear, said Mr. Watson, husband of Mrs. Watson and proud co-owner of the pig. She is a sly pig, said the Watsons' neighbor, Eugenia Lincoln, and things with her are never as they seem. Baby Lincoln, sister to Eugenia Lincoln, remarked that the most interesting things seem to happen when one has pie right before bed. The pig did not capture the thief, said Police Officer Bert Tommy Lello. How it happened, I am not certain, but did it happen? It did. Fireman Ned Fortune and Lorenzo Wiz were also at the scene. They both agreed that the pig had some amazing abilities. They also pointed out that Mrs. Watson made excellent toast. The thief, Leroy Ninker, is interested in reforming himself. He would like to become a cowboy. The pig had nothing to say, but she seemed very pleased with herself. The end. And I will start on chapter 4 on Wednesday. Have a great week, boys and girls. Bye.